Every year, all the inhabitants of our little cube-shaped world come together to compete in the Cube Cup in order to find out who is the ultimate champion in Cubitos. And thanks for joining us at Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows, and today we're looking at a game from John D. Clare called Cubitos from AEG. It's illustrated by Jackie Davis, Philip Glofcheski, Matt Paquette, and Ryan Eiler.
This is a 2 to 4 player race game that is like a bag builder but with no bag. Tons of dice. Everybody's playing their turns simultaneously, so it's a very fast-paced action game.
Yes, it's got zany fun art and lots of dice and components and little pieces to go with it. So AEG sent us a review copy to check out, so let's see how it plays.
To set up the game, choose which racetrack you'll be using and lay it out in the middle of the table.
Put out the fan track, credits, and extra die tokens, and then pull out all of your dice boxes and arrange them around the board.
For each set of dice, you'll select a card to determine how the dice will work for the game.
Give each player their player board, marker, and starting dice, and then you're ready to begin.
When the game starts, all of the players will roll all of the dice from their roll zone, and any that land with a face up will get moved to their active zone. Players will have to decide how far to push their luck because they can keep rolling as long as at least one die ends up face up each roll. If a player ever rolls his remaining dice and no faces appear, they will bust.
They will get to move one space on the fan track and possibly pick up a bonus, but they won't get to spend their dice for the round.
When a player decides to stop rolling, they can then spend their footprints to move on the board, and they can spend their credits to buy new dice to add to their pool.
Sometimes the dice will work together with others.
Some will allow you to battle and compare against other players in order to claim rewards.
And some dice have more faces than others.
The prices will always be appropriate for the value of the die, and building a well-oiled machine is the key to getting your racer over the board and across the finish line first. And that is basically how you play Cubitos. You're just trying to get your racer to be the first across the finish line. There's no points in the game. The tiebreaker is just whoever went the furthest. So if multiple people cross the finish line on the final turn, whoever was able to go the furthest, get the most footsteps, is going to win the game.
Yeah, it is basically that deck builder mechanic of you're going to draw whatever your hand limit is from your draw pile, and then you're going to roll the cards it's like a deck builder, but the cubes, dice that that actually landed on a face, those you're going to use that turn. You can't save any for the next round. You're going to use them if you don't bust, and then they're going to go in your discard, and you're going to draw new. If you buy new dice using your coins and credits, then they'll go in your discard pile. So if you're familiar with a deck builder game, it's easy to jump into. It's just every single one of those dice that you use in the game are going to have a different ability depending on how you set up the game.
Yeah, it's very cool, the deck builder portion of it, and like a good deck builder, there are actually spaces on the board where you can get rid of dice from your hand, which is cool. The boards, there are a couple different boards. They feature different water hazards and teleports and bonuses and upgrades. There are places where you can move extra spaces, or you can get rid of dice or gain dice. So you have a lot of additional stuff that you can do on the board in addition to whatever is going on in the card deck. The card deck, kind of like Tiny Towns, is really going to change your gameplay every time. So you're going to get a lot of replayability out of the board and an incredible amount out of the combination of those cards, because a lot of those cards will work together where if you roll the purple die but you also have an active white die, you get 2 extra steps. And so strategically building your deck in the game is going to be the key to getting a lot of extra footprints.
Yeah, and the rule book comes with several different scenarios, and they're even give kind of a weight, like these are advanced games setups, these are a little bit easier or beginner setups, so that will help gauge for your specific group that is playing the game. And as well as there are 4 different maps, like Will said. There's also that fan board, which I think may confuse some people that it's a leader track, but it's really just a way to have some type. Well, it could be a catch the leader, but it also helps you out if you bust. You can get very powerful turns if you're pressing your luck and you make it, but if you end up busting, and you have to have 3 active dice in your pool to be able to bust. So if you have 2, 3, 4 bad rolls at the beginning, it doesn't matter because you haven't accumulated enough faces to actually bust. But once you have 3, then it's possible to bust. So you'll need to, weigh the consequences of busting. If you've busted so many times, that fan track bonus gets bigger and bigger and bigger every time you bust. So there is some cards in the deck that if you set up with those, they will give you bonuses for how far you are on that fan track.
Yeah, usually the fan track is not the way to go.
No,
it's really like this nice condolence package. Like, you busted, you don't get to do anything on this turn, but you did at least gain an additional credit, which will help you buy stuff in the future, or maybe it increased your hand limit. Also, the board is marked off in a number of different places so that if somebody does get way ahead of everybody else, well, each section that you are back on the board, you actually get to roll an extra die for. So if you're already behind and you've got the 2 bonus tokens that give you extra dice, and it's your turn, we forgot to mention that the first player actually gets an extra die each round that you pass around. That's what kind of keeps you on track so that it's not real time, it's just simultaneous play. So you could be rolling a huge handful of dice and make a really big comeback. The game is pretty well balanced for being a dice rolling luck based game. You really feel like you have some control, like you're being helped out if you're in the backside. But usually the people that win are the people who did a great job strategically collecting the dice that work together to give them a big boost.
Yeah, and some of those lower value dice are actually pretty powerful in the game. Some of them...
Lower priced dice, you mean?
Yes. Sorry, that maybe only cost 2 or 3 coins, but if you get a certain face on those dice, you end up having to spend them and they go back into the pool. So there's a little bit of luck involved in which side that if it ends up rolling, you aren't allowed to, if you roll a face on the die, you have to keep it that. You can't decide, well, I'm going to re-roll this one because I want it to land somewhere else. So there is a little bit of that involved. Some of those really expensive dice have 2 or 3 faces that are different. There are some that have a more powerful action, an upgraded action that some of the powers have. The standard action is this, and then the upgraded action is even better. So lots of different combinations to be had in this game. Will, what were your thoughts about just the gameplay in general?
Yeah, I would say in general, I'm not a huge race game fan because I do feel like most of the time it's pretty luck based, or it's so much battling and chaos or something. In this game, you can land on the same space as other players. You don't. It's really just strategically building that deck well. You do. I mean, there's definitely some luck because you will be more lucky than other people when you roll, but a lot of that is how far do you press your luck. And so I really felt like I had a lot of good control. I like the speed of the game. I've had a lot of fun with it. I had several different player counts, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed Cubitos.
Yeah, I enjoy the tactile feel of large handfuls of little dice. It was fun to roll that many. They have the little player board to keep everything organized. So unless you're rolling crazy all over, it was easy to keep it contained in your area. I liked that there were plenty of ways to mitigate the luck, and in even some of the advanced games that we played, it really did depend on making sure that you purchase the correct dice that go together and are comboed. I think there's one race that's specifically comboing the dice to get the right powers out of them. And then keeping in the back of your mind that this is a race game. I'm not trying to build points like some deck builders. I'm not trying to accumulate lots of dice,
even though they are good.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to get the dice that move you along. So keeping that in the back of your mind, and then the pressure luck was very fun. Most of the dice are, I think the most that a die has is 3 sides are empty, so it's very high chances of you busting.
Yeah.
So it feels amazing when you do roll very well, and then if you don't, once you have rolled poorly a few times, then it's like, oh well, I'm going to gain some things this turn, so it's okay. So I felt like they did a good job of trying to mitigate the poor luck involved if in somebody's turn, trying to help you catch up for the catch the leader. So all of those things, I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and I'm hoping to get it to the table more often.
Yeah, one thing that I personally enjoyed was the little cube dice holders. Like, I think that's a nice aesthetic choice to have these surrounding your board, and they hold the dice, and they're really neat, and you actually can store the dice in the boxes when you're done. I didn't have to put them all together.
I
think I may have heard some complaints about.
I was like, I can see some people complaining about the difficulty of getting the boxes folded correctly. I was fine with it personally. I can see how that may be an issue for some people, but it's purely aesthetic.
Right.
And if you don't like the boxes, then you can use bags to put all the dice in and just have a little pile next to each card if you really dislike the boxes.
Yeah,
so
I thought they were great.
It's a nice storage solution.
Fiddly.
It's a nice storage solution. Everything fits in the box. There's a space for all the components. But I can see how it could be an issue for some people.
So if you guys are interested in Cubitos, check it out from AEG. Should be available in stores very soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know which card looked the coolest to you as we were flashing through that B-roll. There's some pretty neat illustrations and fun stuff in there. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Every year, all the inhabitants of the little cube world that we live in come together to compete. And that's basically how you play the game. You're trying to get your racer across. Too excited.
Jackie Davis, Matt Paquette, Ryan Eiler, and Philip. Oh, man.
Oh, you were doing so good. I thought you had it.
Lefchesky. I need to say Philip's name.
Cubitos. 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 One of those.